Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. Professor Chaz here. The lab coat's on back order, and it's time to talk some strategy. So with the recent release of Ancient Origins in North America, it's only a matter of time, 3 weeks to be exact, before these new cards become legal for play Pokemon events, such as tournaments and championships, those kind of things. So we need to know how we're going to include these cards in our decks. Now there's a lot of good cards that have come out. I've been looking through the Pokémon TCG online to check out the new ones, and there's some crazy good potential for a lot of these new ones. Now I'd like to go over some of them with you. I'm going to mention the EXs, the Pokemon with special abilities, new trainer cards, special energies, things like that. So we're going to get right into that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to breeze through a couple more random openings for booster packs. Let's check these out. Now I'll try to breeze through these pretty quick because as you can see we got some older packs. We got the Furious Fists and Phantom Forces. You guys aren't here for this. You want to check out the new cards from Ancient Origins. So let's get this over with as quick as we can. First up, from the older of the two sets, Furious Fists. And I just dropped the entire pack. As I say, I'll try and go quickly, but if we find anything pretty amazing, we'll stop and revel in its amazingness. Okay, first up, let's focus this camera. We have a Magmar, Pikachu, Clefairy, Torchic, Pancham. Next got a Watch Hog, Super Scoop Up, Jaw Fossil. The reverse foil card is Clawitzer. I think I've already got this, but you can never have too many reverse foil Clawitzers. And the rare of Furious Fists, possibly something to take down the almighty power of Mega Tyranitar, is Golurk. Well, you can wreck a Stadium card at least. Alright, moving on to Phantom Forces. Let's see, we haven't gotten an EX or a full art out of one of these random boosters in quite some time. It would be pretty awesome if luck would change. Okay, so starting off, we have a Zubat, Bunnelby, Fletchling, Carablast, and Skarmory. I'm sounding too epic for these cards. Liepard, Professor Sycamore, Golbat, go good with the Zubat, and the old Sneaky Bite to place a damage counter on, two damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon when you evolve a Zubat into Golbat from hand. Reverse foil, Wobbuffet with Bide Barricade. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, each Pokemon in play, in hand, and in discard piles have no abilities except for Psychic Pokemon. Now, the rare card of the Phantom Forces shall be a Honchkrow with Hypnoblast and Nightmare Mambo. Let's check out some new cards. So first on the list, we're going to take a look at all of the EX Pokemon from Ancient Origins. Up here we have Ampharos EX, a lightning Pokemon with 170 HP. You can see the attacks here. Thunder Rod is good for getting some more electric energy attached to this particular Pokemon. And Sparkling Tail, with no effect of weakness or resistance or any other effects on the defending Pokemon, you're going to do a nice decent 100 damage. Now, Mega Ampharos is actually quite impressive as well here. 220 HP, and Extra Volt for 2 Lightning and 2 Colorless does 120 plus. So you can choose to do 50 more damage and paralyze the active Pokemon. If you do, Mega Ampharos EX will do 30 damage to itself. Easy way around that, just stick a Protection Cube on this from the Flashfire set. You're going to be able to choose to do 50 more, so 170 damage, and paralyze, all with no recoil, because you're going to prevent that with the Protection Cube. And that's pretty powerful. Anything that leaves the opponent paralyzed with no drawback is really impressive, because basically paralysis is a lost turn for the opponent. So you can keep them just frozen in place while you're continuing to do 170 every turn. Now Giratina EX is pretty impressive as well. 170 HP, this is a dragon Pokemon. The ability, Renegade Pulse. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done to Giratina EX by Mega Evolution Pokemon. So, with all the Megas and Primal Reversions that are coming out in these new sets, Giratina will be totally immune to them. Chaos Wheel is actually really crazy too. For a Grass, a Psychic, and 2 Colorless, you're going to do 100 damage, and prevents your opponent from playing any Pokemon tools, special energies, or stadiums during their next turn. that shuts down so many different trainer cards. And if we couple this with the Vileplume that we got in the Stoneheart deck, you're going to shut down so many of the opponent's supporting cards. It's really going to delay them and help you get into the victory. Now, we've already taken a look at Hoopa EX, so just basically a quick go over here. The Scoundrel Ring ability is the highlight of this guy. When you play it, you can search your deck for 3 more Pokemon EX except for Hoopa and put them right in your hand. And then Hyperspace Fury is a good attack to do 100 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon. Kyurem EX is up next, 180 HP, Water-type Pokemon. Glaciate for 2 water and a colorless does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, active and the bench, 30 across the board. Excalibur, 3 water and a colorless, can do 130 damage. You discard an energy attached to Kyurem, and then the defending Pokemon can't attack on the next turn. Completely shuts them down. And Lugia EX, colorless Pokemon, 170 HP. And Arrow Ball is the current form of Mewtwo EX's X-Ball, and actually not quite similar to Yveltal EX's Evil Ball, but essentially 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So you're going to be doing at least 40 because Lugia EX needs 2 energy itself to use that. Add another 20 for each of the opponent's active Pokemon's energy that's attached. So that powers up pretty impressively. And then Deep Hurricane for 4 energy does 80 plus. If there's a stadium in play, 70 more damage, then you discard the stadium. So you're doing 150. You probably want to run a number of stadiums in your deck if you're going to use Lugia EX just for damage fodder, essentially. And now Machamp EX, a fighting Pokemon with 180 HP. Steaming Mad is pretty impressive. 20 damage times the amount of damage counters on Machamp. So you can do some serious, like, if he was 10 HP away from fainting, you'd be doing 340 damage with Steaming Mad. The drawback, and I use air quotes that you can't see, is that Machamp EX confuses itself. Now, Crazy Hammer does 80 plus. If Machamp EX has a special condition, such as Confusion, this does 80 more damage, so 160. Then you remove all special conditions from Machamp EX. So the drawback is actually that when you're confused, you have to flip a coin, you might get a Tails and hurt yourself, but Pokemon.com has released some information and some strategies for these new cards. If you pair this with the Ariados that we found in the the theme deck, you can poison both active Pokemon, except for grass types. You can poison your own Machamp EX, do that Crazy Hammer for 160, and then cure that poison. That's actually a pretty wicked combo. So here we have Sceptile EX, and we've already taken a look at that as well, so I'm just going to let you take a look at the card here and the attacks. The Mega Sceptile EX, which I happen to pull out of a booster pack, I would like to say. And Jagged Saber, 100 damage, we've seen this one as well. We've also taken a look at Tyranitar EX with the Hammer In and Break Ground attacks, 180 HP. Mega Tyranitar EX with the overpowered Destroyer King attack. On turn 2 you're doing 770 damage, we know all about that. And we've also seen these as well, I'm pretty sure. The ultra rare shiny versions of the Mega Rayquaza and the Primal Reversions for Groudon and Kyogre. So there we have the EXs in the new set. Now let's take a look at the Pokemon that have the ancient traits in this new set. First we're going to look at 4 Pokemon with the Theta Stop ancient trait, which prevents all effects of your opponent's Pokemon's abilities done to the Pokemon with that trait. First up is Baltoy, a Psychic Pokemon, 60 HP. Pretty cool attack, Future Spin. You can look at the top 3 cards of either player's deck and rearrange them, put them back however you like. So, slow your opponent down by having something less useful for them to draw from the top. And, you can use your own deck and put your best ones on top to help yourself out. Golurk. Now this one's a pretty interesting card. There's a lot here going on. A Psychic Pokemon with 130 HP. Theta Stop also here. The ability, Double Type. As long as Golurk is in play, it is both a Psychic and a Fighting type. Now, Superpower for 4 energy, does 80 plus. You may do 40 more damage. If you do, this Pokemon does 20 damage to itself. So, damaging yourself is never a good thing. However, technically, with the ability making it a Psychic and Fighting type, its resistance is Fighting minus 20. So, you can choose to do 40 more damage. Golurk would resist its own 20 damage to itself thanks to the double typing. So, something pretty impressive there. You're gonna be like, you can just choose to do 120. Not bad. Another Theta Stop. Here we have Porygon Z, the normal type with 130 HP. Digital Reboot. So, devolve as many of your benched Pokemon as many times as you like. Put each evolution card removed this way into your hand. This would be useful for things that, say, when you play this card to evolve a Pokemon, do such and such ability. You can use this Digital Reboot to constantly do these effects over and over. Then Dazzle Blast for 2 energy does 50 and causes confusion in the opponent. The final Theta Stop Pokemon will be Volcarona, a fire Pokemon, 110 HP. Kind of basic attacks. Burning Scales does 20 plus. Flip 2 coins, 20 more damage for each heads. Wind Wheel will do 80, and your opponent switches the active Pokemon with one of their benched ones. Next up in the Ancient Traits is Theta Double. We've seen this in play with the theme decks. Entei is the first with 130 HP, Fire-type Pokemon. Flame Screen will be good to reduce damage. You can reduce damage by 30 on the opponent's next turn. And Heat Tackle will do 130, and flip a coin. If tails, Entei will hurt itself for 30 damage. Of course, you can get around that with the Trick Coin or the Protection Cube. Gyarados, also with Theta Double. We've seen this one in action in the playtest of the two theme decks. So no Full Retaliation is powered up with damaged Magikarp on the bench, and Thrash does 100 damage, with a coin flip doing 30 more on a heads or 30 to yourself on a tails. Again, Protection Cube, Trick Coin, one of those things. Metagross. Now there's a regular Metagross with the ability, and this is a second Metagross of this set with Theta Double. Machine Gun Stomp does 20 plus 10 more damage for every card in your hand. So load up on cards and then go for the Machine Gun Stomp, do some damage. Then Guard Press will do 80, and reduce damage done to Metagross during your opponent's next turn by 20. The final ancient trait of the set will be Vespiquen, and we've already seen this one in action. Basically, V-Drain does 20 damage and heals the amount of damage done from Vespiquen. So you can heal, like, do 20, heal 20. If this was holding a muscle band, or maybe 2 muscle bands, you could do 60 with V-Drain, and then heal 60 from Vespiquen. Fury Swipes is a good basic attack for 2 energy. Flip 3 coins, you get 30 damage off for every heads that you flip. And now let's take a look at one of my favorite parts of a new set of cards, the abilities. So we've seen Ariados already with the Poisonous Nest. You can poison both active Pokemon once per turn, except for grass types. Flareon, now I mentioned, I believe, in the unboxing video, Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon all have similar abilities. For example, Flareon here, with Flare Effect, every one of your Stage 1 Pokemon in play is now a Fire Pokemon, in addition to its existing types. Now, as I said with Golurk, you saw that its ability says it is a Psychic and Fighting type as long as it's in play, and it's a Stage 1 Pokemon. If you had all 3 of the EV evolutions on your bench, Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Golurk suddenly becomes a 5-type Pokemon. Psychic, Fighting, Fire, Lightning, and Water. It's going to be super effective against so many things, and with that superpower not damaging itself, you can do 120 times 2 based on weakness to any of your opponent's Pokemon that might happen to come up. So, Golurk might see some decent play in this new expansion. Gardevoir is a pretty good one too, with the ability Bright Heal. Once during your turn before your attack, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So, it's like basically a fresh water over and over. Heal 20 from your entire team. Goomy here it's got the ability Water Down. When you attach a water energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, you may search your deck for Goomy and put it on your bench. So it dilutes itself with a nice drop of water and splits into 2 Goomy. Now the attack is not that good. 2 energy cards to do a 10 damage attack. You're probably not going to be seeing this Goomy actually in battle. Mostly the ability, I think, is why it would be in anybody's deck. Next is Jolteon. Now interestingly enough, Flareon and Vaporeon are both uncommon cards in this set, but Jolteon gets the rare rarity. Must be because the attack might be a little bit stronger or something. So yeah, Electric Effect makes all your Stage 1 Pokemon in play Lightning type in addition to their regular types. We've already seen Metagross in the theme deck. Magnetic Warp is kind of like an escape rope. You you switch your Pokemon first with a benched Pokemon, and then your opponent does the same thing with their active and a benched. As I mentioned in the theme deck showdown, you have to really be careful which you're going to use, the Magnetic Warp ability or the Escape Rope item card. The order of switching is important because with Magnetic Warp, you're doing the switch first, so your opponent is going to be able to see what you bring up and then bring up something super effective perhaps. Whereas the escape rope is the reverse. Your opponent switches first, then you would bring up something super effective if possible. So it's important to figure out when you want to use this ability, or if you'd rather use the item card. And here we have Unknown. We saw, I believe, a couple of these when I was opening the theme decks. The Farewell Letter ability essentially lets you get rid of Unknown to draw possibly a better card. Unknown has been, well, unknown for being a good card, meaning it's known for being not the best card whenever it's released in the different expansions. But Farewell Letter might at least make it somewhat useful in a deck, perhaps? Now, Vaporeon, we already saw this one as well with the Aqua Effect ability, making all your Stage 1s Water type in addition to the regular types. And Vileplume, of course, we've seen this as well, the Irritating Pollen, preventing each player from playing item cards from their hand. And like I said, this would couple well with Giratina-EX, whose attack prevents, Stadium cards, special energies, and Pokemon tools. Vileplume will shut down the remainder of all item cards, so your opponent can only play support or trainer cards from that point out. Now, before we move on to the new trainers in this expansion, I want to take a look at just a few more Pokemon. No abilities, no ancient traits, just really interesting attacks. Claydol here with Rewind. I mentioned this when I actually pulled this one out of a booster pack. Devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. Initially, it doesn't seem like a big deal. You're going to say de-evolve their Charizard into Charmeleon, and they can just play it again on their next turn. But if that Charizard had more damage counters than Charmeleon's HP can handle, as soon as Rewind finishes, that Pokemon is knocked out. Now, if you can get a bunch of damage counters on some high evolution Pokemon, and then do the Rewind attack on your next turn, you could potentially knock out several Pokemon just by de-evolving them. Malamar's interesting attack is Trash Tentacle. It'll do 30 damage for 1 Dark Energy, and simply said, put a card from your discard pile into your hand. Take back any card you've used, you can use it again on your next turn. That's a really useful attack. Not to mention the fact that Malamar is a common card. You would expect something like that to be uncommon or rare. Porygon Z, the non-ancient trait. The first attack, Cyber Crush. Discard all special energy attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon, all for just 1 energy. Your opponent could be running, Strong Energy and, say, Wonder Energy. Just give this Porygon Z 1 energy, you're taking all that away from them. And there's very limited ways to get back special energy once it's been discarded. Slowing Beam is not bad either. For 3 energy, you can do 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon has to have 1 extra energy attached to use any of its moves. So it could, quite literally, it will slow them down a little bit. Sableye is pretty interesting with its Bewitching Eyes attack. Choose a supporter card from your opponent's discard pile and use it as the effect of this attack. So there's many different ways this can be done because there's so many different supporter cards. I just like the fact that this can make things so unexpected. You never know what might happen. What supporter card will you use? What effect will it have? Who knows? Sableye is pretty tricky that way. And then also Furtive Drop. Put 3 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon. That gets around things like the Rock Guard and Hard Charm and resistance if the Pokemon's resistant to Dark type. You're just dropping 3 damage counters on. Vespiquen is pretty interesting. This is the non-ancient trait one as well. Intelligence Gathering does 10 damage, and you may draw it till you have 6 cards in your hand. But Be Revenge is the more interesting thing I want to mention here. In the Night March deck in expanded format, people will often run Flareon from one of the Team Plasma sets because of its attack Revenge, which does 20 damage plus 10 more for each Pokemon in the discard pile. Night March is a deck that you're going to focus around discarding Pokemon anyway that have the Night March attack. But if your Night Marchers get knocked out, Flareon would be like a backup, still doing 20 plus 10 more for each discarded Pokemon. Now Vespiquen is the standard version of that now. So it has the same basic attack, Be Revenge 20 plus 10 more for each Pokemon in the discard pile, and, nicely enough, it is a free retreat Pokemon as well. Volcarona, with the first attack, Solar Birth, for 1 energy, you get to search your deck for a basic Pokemon, that could be an EX, if that's what you're going for, and put it on your bench, then search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to that Pokemon. So Solar Birth, for just 1 energy, you're going to get possibly an EX into play, 2 energy already powered up. It could be ready to go based on, depending on which particular Pokemon that is. And Whimsicott. Oh man, Windy Mischief. move all damage counters from one of your bench Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. You essentially get a full heal for one of your own Pokemon, putting all that damage on the opponent for one fairy energy. I don't see how this can be an uncommon card. That has to be a misprint. This is a rare, but actually it is an uncommon in the set, so shouldn't be that hard for you to find. Moving on to the trainer cards. So we've already seen Ace Trainer, we've mentioned it, and we've also seen it in play in the Theme Deck Showdown. Eco Arm, I got the reverse foil version of this in one of the booster packs. Shuffle 3 tool cards from the discard pile back into your deck. Energy Recycler, I also got this out of the boosters. Shuffle 5 basic energy cards from the discard pile into the deck. Next we have Faded Town. I like the sound of this effect here. At any time between turns, put 2 damage counters on each Mega Evolution Pokemon. Megas have been seeing some decent play. I battled against a team full of Primal Groudon at one point. Having Faded Town in play would be pretty useful, adding some damage to any Mega Evolved Pokemon. Forest of Giant Plants. Each player's grass Pokemon can evolve during his or her first turn, or the turn he or she plays those Pokemon. Interesting way to work with this could be the Vileplume's Irritating Pollen. Now, we all know how irritating it is to not be able to play item cards. So let's say you have this Forest of Giant Plants in play, and you have a Vileplume, and a handful of item cards. If you happen to have AZ, you can play AZ to take the Vileplume back into your hand, play all your item cards, and then thanks to the Forest of Giant Plants, you can play down the Oddish, evolve the Gloom, evolve the Vileplume, and your opponent is back in the same boat, can't play items on their turn. You can potentially keep doing this over and over as long as you have AZs, or ways to keep getting AZs into play. Hexmaniac is an interesting supporter as well. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon in play, in each player's hand, and in each player's discard pile has no abilities. So for 2 turns, yours plus the opponent's, it'll shut down all special abilities that are going on. And as a fan of special abilities, I still think this is going to be pretty interesting, just to see how it would affect the overall feel of the battlefield in each game. Level Ball is a standard card that we've seen in various sets before. Search your deck for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Now, Lucky Helmet. I really like this tool. I didn't think much of it at first when I first heard about it. You know, wow, if I get hit, I get to draw 2 cards. Okay. The effect that this actually has on a game, normally if you have a Pokemon out in your active spot and your opponent has one as well, if you have like an attack that does 20, maybe 30 damage, you figure, well, there's no reason not to attack. We're going to put a little damage on them, and we're going to slowly whittle away at them. You really get the feel that you don't want to do that if the Pokemon has Lucky Helmet attached. You want to be able to one-shot that Pokemon and minimize the amount of cards your opponent is going to draw every time they're hit. So if you're doing like 10 or 20 damage with each hit, each time you do that, they're gaining 2 more cards to use against you on their next turn. So it's funny how it, at least for me, it changes your thought process of when can I attack the defending Pokemon. And we see Lysandre has been reprinted in the set. It's always good to have the ability to control your opponent's side of the battlefield. You get to choose one of their bench Pokemon and bring it to the active spot. Paint Roller, I also pulled this out of the boosters. Discard a stadium card in play and then draw a card. And here we have the mandatory Spirit Links for the Ampharos, Sceptile, and Tyranitar EXs. So you won't have to end your turn if you Mega Evolve any of these Pokemon with the appropriate Spirit Link attached. And they do have 2 of the Gold Rim cards printed in this new set as well. We have the Ultra Rare Energy Retrieval, the Ultra Rare Trainer's Mail. And they've reprinted, not reprinted exactly, but they have given us another Steven card from the Roaring Skies set, but this time it is the full art for this expansion. Now the final cards to mention are these 2 new special energy cards. We already talked about Dangerous Energy. It can only be attached to a Darkness type Pokemon. And whenever the Darkness Pokemon it's attached to is damaged, or is active, and then damaged by an opposing EX, you put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon EX. I mentioned this in the Mega Tyranitar video, but what I forgot to mention was that these are stackable, meaning you can have, like, well, for each Darkness or Dangerous Energy attached to your Pokemon, 2 damage counters are going to be placed on the attacking Pokemon. So 4 of these will do 8 damage counters back. Now, it's pretty impressive. It's almost like the Ace Spec Trainer Rock Guard, which does 6 damage counters recoil. But this is, if you have enough energy attached, you're going to do more. So imagine coupling that with the Rock Guard, though. So 60 and all 4 of these would be 80. That would be 140 damage, putting right back on the attacking Pokemon. The only other special energy in this new set is Flash Energy. It is a lightning energy. It can only be attached to lightning Pokemon. And when it is, the lightning Pokemon this card is attached to does not have a weakness anymore. So that's not too bad at all. Alright, so those are all what I think to be the interesting new cards from the Ancient Origins expansion. If you have any other cards that you think are interesting and you felt like, you want to make a mention, feel free to mention a comment down below. And in the meantime, good luck finding some of these new cards to put into your new decks, and I wish you good luck in your battles. Alright, thanks for checking out this video, and I'll catch you next time.